going to start with Amadou Koné. Many of you might be saying, who? But young midfielder, 19 at Reims. An interesting name. Now, I don't really want to say too much more on this, Bart, but we've talked about someone like Baleba before, haven't we, at Brighton? And that's a favourite for a lot of people. I think him and Wharton are probably the two a lot would pick for the central midfield reinforcement. Could be wrong, but it seems to be the two names.
Yeah.
It can be easier to make or create a Baleba than buy one, can't it? So without further ado, we'll do the minutes, we'll do the normal stuff. Let's run the rule over Amadou Koné.
I think your point there about making it is probably a very, very sound point that people should keep in their head, if you like, as we go along. In terms of what he played, so clearly he didn't play a lot last year, just short of 500 minutes. He's played just over 1,000 minutes this year. So that's a 50% increase in his minutes played, which is a little bit above what you'd recommend, but it is a step up when he started to do that. He started 21 games, which means they're probably being nice and bringing him off, those kind of things, which is what you want to see him do with a kid. In terms of team success, last season he had a negative impact on their XG creation, but this season he's got a positive impact on the XG creation. So that's good to see with that progression. More minutes, more opportunity to show what he's about, and he's rewarded that by tipping the team. He's also doubled their sort of other metrics by going from 0.4 to 0.8 plus. So that's some reasonable progression, should we say, from year one, starting to come into the fore this year, trying to establish himself maybe as a squad rotation, or maybe just a little bit below that. If we look at some of these other more standard stats, classic one we always look at is what's the impact of him in terms of impacting play. So 0.06 is not high in terms of non-penalty goals and expected assists, but it is. He's a defensive midfielder, isn't he? So he's not having to do a lot of that, right? I think it's probably fairly harsh to judge a kid when he's just working out how to deal with the defensive stuff to say, well, hang on a minute, I want you to do some of that as well. So that's something we can park, should we say? And if we look at usual percentiles and where the rest of it, this bottom box here is the one that's going to be key for him. So aerials 73% per 90, and that's 1.29. Sorry, 73rd percentile, and that is 1.29 per 90. So that's a good start for a kid. Okay, I don't have physical stuff for him, so I'd be leaning on you if you knew what his height was or anything. In terms of clearances, 92nd percentile, which again, blocks and clearances aren't something we would definitely want in a Liverpool defensive midfielder, because it suggests that they're a reactive defensive act, not a proactive defensive act. But he showed he's good at that. Okay, cool. And Reims, but I think the last one in the league, they're not particularly high in the French league. So shows you that they're probably more on that caution. A bit of emergency defending probably goes on with him. So fair enough. Blocks, this is where we want to start seeing a bit more higher ranked. So he's 50% off for that. Okay, that could be massively improved upon. But that shows you he has got some ounce of that he needs to block passing lanes. Interceptions, brilliant, 90th percentile, great. So he can be proactive, go and nick the ball in front, go and stop that pass coming in and play from there. Tackles, again, bit of a reactive trait, but he is in 97th percentile, 3.5% per 90. So, okay, so it's green in the defensive, but as we always say, there are some elements that the defensive we don't really want our midfielders to be doing, but it's good that he's got that in his locker. Okay, if we look at between the boxes here, touches in a penalty box and progressive passes received, he's in the third and sixth percentile, 0.21 and 0.57. So he clearly doesn't do a lot, doesn't go anywhere near the opposition box, right? He just likes to sit in that box in front of the two centre halves and do his stuff. And to be fair, I think there's a lot of time this season that you and I would have gone, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we need someone to do that. We need someone just to sit in there and do that. So cool. Okay, fair enough. We look at his successful take-ons. So that's when he gets the ball, has take them on 82nd percentile. That's not percent for those who sometimes get a bit confused by what I'm saying. 82nd percentile, not percent. And that is 1 per game. All right. Progressive carries is 57th percentile, and that's 1.29 a game. And key progressive passes is 58th percentile, that's 5 per game. So what that tells me that he's neither a carrier or a passer. He's currently a bit of both. Okay, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that it also probably reflected the fact that he's 19, as you say, and he's still working out what is his game. All right, and we'll look at his passes later on. But if you look at his pass completion, is 86% per 90. Okay, and that's in the 65th percentile for defensive midfielders. So that's sort of in the top 2/3 in relation to other DMs. And we normally ask our midfielders to be around the 86th percentile. But there will be DMs who will have a higher pass percentage completion. Yeah, because that's just the nature of who they play for, right? Rodri will have a really high pass completion when he plays for City, but he doesn't do a lot. He's also very sit in there and do that. Okay, he's not that can be safe with his passing as well. Passes attempted. This guy's got a low volume. All right, so 28th percentile shows you he's in the bottom third for volume of passes. All right, so there are 2/3 of DMs in European football that will attempt a higher amount of passes per 90 than this lad. Okay, I mean, I don't want to degrade the lad, but in the attacking box, he clearly doesn't get in there very often and when he does, he doesn't have very much impact. Right? He's in the 17th percentile, so that's 1.5 shot creating actions per 90, which is low, right? This is compared against DM midfielders as well. So that's a low amount. He hasn't really got any assists. Doesn't take a lot of shots on. 0.86 is less than 1 a game. And goals is basically 0-0, and non-penalty goals 0.44. So he's not renowned for his attacking prowess, for example. But again, to be fair with you, I'm okay with that. If he helps us keep the back door shut and stop transitions, fine. We've got other midfielders that go and do all the other goal stuff. I mean, McAllister at the weekend, a prime example of an 8/6 who can go and score goals. So this is okay. If we look at comparing him to our current incumbent as the 6, which is Gravenberch, right? Grav does outperform on a lot of the metrics, but the difference isn't like huge. Particularly look, progressive passes. Grav is not known for his progressive passes. We know he's a carrier, right? So, progressive carries, I can't tell. But anyway, progressive carries is a vast difference between the two. Progressive passes is it's only about a half a round on the wagon wheel. Okay, so the passes are similar, the carries are not. Take-ons very similar between the two. Okay, touches, Grav is on the ball a lot more. Now some of that will be opportunity. Grav plays for Liverpool. They're the best side in the Premier League by a country mile. He's going to get an opportunity to get on the ball a lot. Rennes are not the best side in La Liga, the league. So therefore, he's not going to get an opportunity to get loads of touches in a game. Okay, so sometimes you have to context it with how good or bad the side is. All right. Tackles, percentage dribblers tackled. He actually outperforms Grav, which is interesting. Progressive carries received. We've already said he doesn't go anywhere near the opposition box. He's not going to do that. Grav outperforms him. Now, tackles and interceptions. He outperforms Gravenberch. Okay, so that's quite an interesting thing to think about. Blocks, they're about the same. Clearances, because he plays in that type of side and he's in the 92nd percentile, he outperforms Grav for that defensive metric. The other metrics, Grav performs him by a ring or more in the wagon wheel. Yeah, so there's clearly the on-ball game, should we say, of this Kone would need to be developed more, but that also could be through opportunity. Okay, it could be purely because the team he currently plays for don't get a lot of the ball, and therefore when he gets it, it's very much a quick, simple pass to somebody else to try and create something. All right. If we look at his dashboard, he's playing in these areas. Go on,
Bart's is gonna shout at me any sec for this, people. By the way, he really is, because I haven't told him about this. But before we go any further, I'm gonna just do it a bit differently for this one. Actually, Amadou Koné. He's not gonna like this, but he will really. So, you asked me a few things, and this is important to say. Number one, he's 6'1".
Yeah, that's good.
Number two, he is known as quick. That's the information that we've got. Number three, this is a player that, for information, and I know I've sent you the thing through of where this has come from, and this is a very, as you know, reputable source and someone that we should, information-wise, is very savvy on this. The big thing we want to talk about now, Bart, is Liverpool are looking for another midfielder, but not necessarily one to start. And for those that have watched the transfer show recently, the two that we've said that Liverpool have had a look at, they wanted Dario Essugo from Sporting Lisbon, who's on loan at Las Palmas, but Chelsea beat them to that one. They had a look at Tom Bischoff at Hoffenheim as another one who could come in and sort of almost be a grab relief pitcher, if you want to call it that, or another option as the one. Now, you're not going to like this, but you will, Bart. If you scroll down slightly on this, you can tell by his face, I haven't told him this, who is the top FB chart to compare him to?
Yeah, it's the guy that's Palmas, which I didn't notice.
Can we click that and put it on screen for the viewers? Because just to make sure we've almost can do the overlay, because the reason I'm saying this, and I wanted to do it, and might have to go back, Bart, and actually do the FB chart one overlay. It's my fault for not saying clearly this week, because we've got both players. Remember that, people. And I know we're going to shout, people be shouting, I see in the chat, Wharton, Baleba, blah, 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 blah. That is not what the club seem to be looking at. What are you noticing about them two profiles, Bart?
Very, very similar, which is often what we say with a lot of players. That suggests to me that actually Kone is coming out better than he's a red, for those of you who would look at this maybe back later on. But he outperforms Essugo. Is that Essugo? Yeah,
Essugo, I think it's pronounced.
Essugo. So he's actually better on the ball than Essugo, which is quite something to be saying. When I've just said he's one of his best traits. But defensively, he's the same as Essugo. To be fair, there's a little bit of difference in some of the metrics, but not by much. Aerials, he's slightly better. Blocks, he's slightly better. And he's better for non-penalty goals, and shots. But other than that, they're a very similar profile, and I imagine the price is going to be very different.
Well, again, this is where there's never an exact science, but it's worth talking about. Reims, as you said, they're not the biggest club with the greatest respect to anyone who watches Liga, and they are sort of low mid-table in France. He is the starlet, the one a lot of clubs are looking at. Thinking about the fact that Liverpool seem to be looking for someone who can come in and supplement the midfield, rather a youth project. And I talked about this kid in terms of like Essugo. They don't want to buy the next Baleba. They want to create the next Baleba, it seems. So if this kid was around 20 to 25 million quid, what would you say?
I'd say it's not a bad deal. Yeah, I mean, it's never your money. It's never our money, is it? I suppose back in the day, that'd be about a £10 million signing, wouldn't it? That's probably not bad. I was going to say at the beginning, if you bought this guy and Wharton for the same price as Baleba, then I think you've done what we did 2 seasons ago, which is rather than spending money on Bellingham, we bought 3 midfielders, right? Mm. So rather than go out and get your Baleba from Brighton, who let's be honest, you're lucky to get away without paying 80-90 million pounds. You get 2 in that give you an understanding to grab and also give you something different that we haven't got from deep, then I'll be all over that. But it's this So that kind of profile, considering Chelsea have got the other key, I think it's probably going to cost them more. And this guy profile looks a little bit better. Yeah, I could see that kind of deal happening, but I wouldn't say that'd be a first off the rank deal. I'm not sure about you, but I think that might be a late in the summer kind of deal, but maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one where people will be looking. And listen, not everyone's going to be excited by the name of Kone. People are going to want, like we say, the likes of Water and Belay, all that. And I get that, completely get that at the same time. All we can do with this, Joe, as we always do, is give the information, run the numbers on the players that we know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd just be running Messi, Haaland and all that type of stuff, which isn't the nature of it, is it? So, yeah, Amadou Koné, and Bart will shout at me for that later, but we'll deal with it